What if the only difference between a killer and a saint is just a few molecules in the brain, released seconds before they act? One person pulls a trigger. The other offers a hug. Both are human. Both might have grown up in similar homes, gone to the same schools, even eaten the same breakfast that morning. But something happens in the brain, in the body, maybe years before that moment. And boom, two completely different outcomes. That's the question at the heart of Behave by Robert Sapolsky. Why do humans behave the way they do? What drives kindness? What fuels cruelty? And how much of it can we actually control? This book is a monster, not just in size, but in scope. We're talking about 700 pages of deep, layered science. And yet, it doesn't feel like a textbook. Sapolsky's a neuroscientist, but he's also a gifted storyteller. He's got this way of explaining incredibly complex ideas in a way that's not only understandable, but weirdly entertaining. He quotes research, yes, but also drops in jokes, pop culture, even The Simpsons. It's like sitting in on the most fascinating lecture ever, except it never ends, and you don't want it to. So, how is Behave structured? This is what makes the book so unique. He takes a single human action, say someone punches another person, and then rewinds time. He starts with what happened 1 second before the act, what hormones flooded the brain, which part of the brain lit up, what impulses were triggered. Then he goes back to the minutes before, the hours, the days. He talks about whether that person slept well, whether they were hungry, whether they were in pain. Then he zooms out even more, to their childhood, their teen years, their culture, their society, their genetic history, and even thousands of years of evolution. It's like watching a crime documentary in reverse, peeling back layer after layer until you finally reach the roots. One of the most interesting takeaways from the book is this: human behavior is never caused by just one thing. We love simple answers. He snapped. She's just a bad person. But Sapolsky shows that real life is messier. Behavior is the final link in a long, tangled chain of biology, psychology, environment, and history. Every decision we make, every word, every action is shaped by 1,000 tiny forces pulling at us all at once. And most of the time, we don't even realize it. Let me share a quick story from the book. It's about testosterone. Now, most people hear that word and immediately think aggression. Testosterone equals violence, right? Wrong. What Sapolsky shows is that testosterone doesn't cause aggression directly. What it really does is make people more sensitive to status. So if violence is the way to gain status in a certain environment, then yes, testosterone might lead to aggression. But in a peaceful, cooperative group, higher testosterone might actually make someone more helpful, more generous, if that's how you rise in the ranks. The hormone doesn't control the outcome, the context does. That one idea alone could change the way we think about crime, leadership, even parenting. Another big theme in Behave is empathy. We're wired for it, literally. Our brains have special neurons, called mirror neurons, that help us feel what others feel. But here's the catch. Empathy works best with people we see as part of our in-group. Our family, our tribe, our team. We're far less empathetic toward people we see as outsiders. That's not just a moral flaw, it's a biological quirk. And unless we're aware of it, it can lead to massive problems, like racism, nationalism, and polarization. Sapolsky isn't saying we're doomed. He's saying if we understand how our brains work, we have a better shot at rising above our worst instincts. Now, let's talk about violence. Sapolsky spends a lot of time on this, and for good reason. Human beings are capable of incredible violence, wars, genocides, abuse. But we're also capable of immense compassion. So what tips the scale? One of the most haunting sections in the book looks at how ordinary people can be swept into committing horrible acts, not because they're evil, but because of group pressure, fear, or dehumanization. It's chilling. But again, the point isn't to scare us. The point is to make us aware. If we know what makes people snap or follow orders blindly, maybe we can build systems that prevent it. Let's take a quick look at how the book's been received. On Goodreads, Behave has an average rating of 4.5 out of 5, which is incredibly high for a book this dense. Reviewers call it a masterpiece, life-changing, and the most important book I've ever read. Some say it should be required reading for anyone working in law, politics, education, or mental health. Others admit it's a tough read, heavy, long, and packed with info, but totally worth the effort. And they're right. This isn't a book you skim through on a lazy Sunday. It's a book you study, sit with, and maybe even argue with. There are moments when the book gets very detailed, especially when talking about brain chemistry, neurotransmitters, or evolutionary theory. If you're not into science, you might feel a little lost at times, but don't let that scare you off. Sapolsky always brings it back to real life. He connects the science to everyday situations, like parenting, politics, crime, and even religion. You'll finish a chapter and start seeing the world differently. You'll hear someone shout in traffic and wonder what their amygdala is doing. You'll read the news and think, what happened in this person's life 20 years ago to lead to this moment? It changes your lens. Now, I won't pretend this book has all the answers. In fact, Sapolsky is very honest about what we don't know. Science is still catching up to behavior. But what he gives us is a framework, a way to think about human actions that's more compassionate, more curious, and more informed. He helps us stop asking, what's wrong with this person? And start asking, what happened to this person? And what's going on in their brain, their body, and their environment? So should you read Behave? If you're interested in human nature, definitely yes. If you want to understand yourself and others better, absolutely. It's not a quick read, but it's one of those books that stays with you for years. I'd give it a 9.5 out of 10, only docking a half point because you need stamina to get through it. But once you do, the payoff is huge. In short, Behave is a deep dive into what makes us tick and what sometimes makes us explode. It's science, it's philosophy, it's storytelling, and it just might change the way you see people forever.